Did you know your credit card points and miles can lose value to inflation? Credit card companies often reduce the redemption value of your points and miles. Now imagine a credit card with rewards that can grow in value. With the Gemini credit card, you can earn Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos instantly with no annual fee. Every swipe at the store or gas pump earns you instant rewards deposited straight to your account. Plus, sign up now for a $200 Bitcoin bonus to kickstart your rewards. Visit Gemini.com/card today. Check out the link in the description for more information on rates and fees. Again, if you're looking to invest in Bitcoin but don't know where to start, the Gemini credit card makes it easy.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by a good friend of ours, Colby Marchio. He does great work over at Your Betting News. He does the show Up Your Units. We're going to be chatting with him about what he's all seen here in the postseason. We're going to take a look at the dynamics of these two postseason series. Can anyone stop the LA Dodgers at this point? We're going to be chatting with him about that topic and so much more, and some of the angles that he's looking to bet here in the postseason as well. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis for the 2 games that we've got on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, RCM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via the 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, make sure you utilize that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a $1 for $1 match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Thursday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
It appears as though the Milwaukee Brewers season is as good as done. This person doing this podcast is from the state of Wisconsin. Totally saw this coming. The LA Dodgers get a 3-1 win over the Milwaukee Brewers. Aaron Ashby as the opener did not give a very good open. He got one out, he gave up a run, and Jacob Mizorowski had to get out of a pretty big jam. Wasn't too bad in this one. 2 runs, one of which was earned in 5 innings. 9 punch-outs, was hurt by Abner Uribe, who inherited runners, having a nice pickoff error, as Uribe did not get charged for that run. 1 1/3 innings, he does not give up a run, but he allowed that inherited runner to score. Jared Koenig from there, far outside the bullpen, 3 strikeouts, no runs allowed, but not a lot doing for the Milwaukee Brewers. Had a few golden opportunities early against Tyler Glasnow, but Glasnow only gives up 1 run in 5 2/3 innings despite 3 walks, 8 punch-outs out of him. And then Alex Vesia, Blake Trinan, they both give you a pair of outside the bullpen squirrels. Anthony Banda, scoreless inning. Hiroki Sasaki comes in, and he's able to lend a scoreless inning, and that is the only home win by the home team in the American League Championship Series and the National League Championship Series. Road teams are now 6-1 in this round of the postseason after the Toronto Blue Jays absolutely lay waste to the Seattle Mariners. This by a count of 8-2. For Max Scherzer, he was making his first start in about 4 weeks, and it didn't look too bad. He did give up a home run, 2 runs in total, in 5 2/3 innings. Josh Naylor, his second home run in the postseason. From there, Mason Flaherty and out of the bullpen scorers. Louis Varland, Sir Anthony Dominguez. They both ended scoreless innings. Sir Anthony Dominguez comes in, locks it down in the 9th inning. And for the Blue Jays, pair of home runs. Vlad Guerrero Jr. had 23 home runs during the regular season. He now has 5 here in the postseason, and Andres Gimenez, he was able to go deep. That's his second home run of the postseason, second home run of this series, as Luis Castillo, 2 1/3 innings. He allows 3 runs, all of which were earned, including that Jimenez home run. From there, Gabe Spire, he gave up 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings. Matt Brash, he gives 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Carlos Vargas, his scoreless inning. Edward Bizardo gives up a solo home run to Guerrero in his inning of work. Emerson Hancock, he comes in for the 8th and 9th inning to be able to save the bullpen for game number 5. He gives up 2 runs along the way, and all of a sudden, we have seen 3 overs in this series between the Mariners and the Blue Jays out of the 4 games. And for the Brewers versus Dodgers series, All 3 of those games have went under the total thus far. If you, like me, had the over in game number 2. A little bit salty that the Dodgers left the bases loaded in game number 2 and game number 3. So we are very much seeing the home teams struggling here in the postseason. That's what we saw in baseball on Thursday, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do take a look at the landscape of the postseason? If anyone could slow down the LA Dodgers, and so much more with Colby Marchio, and he's also going to be talking about why he's betting a lot of first 5 team totals as well. That comes up next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast and Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beast and Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got Colby Marchio aboard. He does such a great job over at Your Betting News, taking a look at this great game of baseball. I know that he's been doing some good work on the football front as well. He, much like myself, getting set for what is going to be a tremendous college basketball season as well. He does a great job with the show Up Your Units and so much more. You're able to follow him on Twitter/X at Colby M Bets all together. And Colby, it's always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Greg, you're just reminding me that DePaul basketball is so near, and I can't wait to be the most annoying person on social media.
Hey, that'll be a lot of fun. And at the very least for DePaul, they're not going to have what they had like 2 years ago when they won like 3 or 4 games. That was absolutely terrible. For our good friend Chris Holtman, he's been able to turn things around a little bit there, so that's good. And speaking of turnarounds, are the Brewers able to turn things around against the Dodgers? Because we're doing this prior to knowing the end of game number 3 against the Brewers versus the Dodgers, and I feel like there's a little bit of a sign of life for the Blue Jays after they took game 3, and maybe it'll be lo and behold that when this podcast comes out, the Brewers actually won the game, but this Brewers team right now just feels dead in the water, and it just feels like they're fighting an uphill fight against a team that just has way more weapons than them.
Yeah, it would have been a lot worse if the Cubs somehow managed to get past the Brewers, but I'm glad it was the Brewers that came out on top in their NLDS. But I think they're in a completely opposite spot, unlike the Blue Jays, who made a huge splash yesterday as we were recording this on Thursday in Seattle, where maybe the players in Seattle have a little bit more pressure on them because they haven't been there since I was a toddler almost in 2001. But the Dodgers are an experienced group. They've been in this spot a million times over the last couple of years. They went to the World Series, won the World Series last year, and now they're back at home. I don't think there's any pressure on the Dodgers. I think the fans are going to be chaotic. I am on their first 5 team total over. Hopefully that cashes at 2.5. But I don't see the Brewers coming back as bad as I want the Dodgers not to make it. So it's just a team that hasn't won it in decades or ever.
Neither the Brewers or the Seattle Mariners have, by the way.
No, 2 of the 3 have never won it. I know that's not going to happen. In my heart of hearts, I know it's going to be the Dodgers again because they're just so loaded. And I can't nitpick that team the way I can nitpick the Brewers or the Seattle Mariners or the Blue Jays. I just think it's inevitable that the Dodgers will represent the NL again and possibly win it again.
And you're using the exact word that I am as well, inevitable, because I've talked about this on the podcast the last few days, and I'll bring it up with you. How big is it that this Dodgers bullpen is now revamped? Because it felt like that was the one real weakness, and now you've got Hiroki Sasaki, albeit a man that struggles very much in the postseason, Clayton Kershaw, Emmett Sheehan now coming out of the bullpen, and a Dodgers bullpen that was very shaky with the likes of Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott. They get replaced by those guys, and all of a sudden now they become the Death Star.
The beauty of that is those are all their starters, which makes them just the masterpiece of that. The whole team is just beautiful. Makes you think they probably coasted through the whole second half and knew when they had to turn it on, and they're doing it. I mean, look at Mookie Betts. Good Lord. He's picking up all the slack that Shohei's got going on. Kike Hernandez has looked amazing, as always. I took him to win an LCS MVP and World Series MVP. The prices were too good to pass up on a guy that's batting almost 400 and typically bats above 300 in the postseason. So I think him being as good as he's been is awesome. They're just so dangerous, Greg. I can't see them losing. I really can't.
Yeah, but I can't either. And I do think that that poses the interesting question, as we do have Colby Marchio, does great work over at Your Betting News, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. If it is either the Blue Jays or the Mariners facing off against the Dodgers in the World Series, which team do you think would have a better chance of being able to give them a series and perhaps steal a few games in a potential World Series?
It's got to be the Mariners. It has to be the Mariners. I don't trust Toronto's arms. I mean, like, you got Max Scherzer, who's 41. I mean, the day before, you had Bieber, who had a great outing. Don't get me wrong, had a great outing, but besides the home run he gave up to Julio. But can you expect that? Again, same thing with Savage. Like, I don't expect Savage to have another outing the way he had against the Yankees. They're too young, and there's just too much inconsistency with that rotation. The Mariners, they got some guys, but I think they're the more complete team. And they're the much deeper lineup, in my opinion. So I think the Mariners could at least sneak one by. It would be the much more enjoyable World Series if I had to pick one or the other to come out of the AL. But it's the Mariners, in my opinion. I think they get a win tonight as well.
Yep, and with the Seattle Mariners, they are going to be throwing in Game 5 Bryce Miller, and I do find it a little bit curious that they are going to be throwing Bryce Miller in game number 5, because we saw him in game number 4 look pretty rock solid. And as we know with Bryce Miller, he's dealt with a lot of injuries. It feels like he's a little bit healthier, but it's just a little bit surprising that Brian Wu is not going to be making that start. And I do think that that could give the Blue Jays a chance to be able to take game number 5. We don't know how game number 4 was able to result when we were doing this podcast, but like I said, if they get game number 5, they for sure will be going back for Toronto with a chance to be able to win the series.
If you told me I got to pick the pitcher, I'd be taking Brian Wu.
Yeah.
Miller's stats throughout the season have not been great. I've faded him a couple times. I know his stats are sometimes, he's very inconsistent is what I'm trying to say. And Brian Wu has been one of the most consistent arms in the rotation they've had all season. And he's their third guy? He should be the starter in the next game, depending on whatever happens. But him as the emergency arm, I don't think that's a bad option either. But why would you want to make it go back to Toronto?
Yep, I'm right there with you, and I do think that that is a little bit of an issue for the Mariners, because if this does get back to Toronto, I recognize that the Mariners were able to take both games, which I thought was a very impressive feat, because they use every bullet in the chamber to be able to get past the Detroit Tigers. You do have to have a little bit of fear there. Like, you don't know who the Blue Jays are going to be throwing because it's been a mismatch. I personally would be using a lot more Eric Lauer than what they have been. I don't know if he has like...
Eric Lauer has been fantastic this
I don't
year.
understand why he's not starting right now. Like, why did they ever pull him out of the rotation? Like, that's my big question, because the Blue Jays, it feels like they're using the wrong arms right now.
Eric Lauer he's been
great.
In years past, he's been terrible, but this year
aside from that 1 year with the Brewers, I have to do that as a Brewers fan.
The Brewers no pitching. The Brewers no pitching, Greg. They know how to create a good arm.
Me into a 10-game winner.
They made Quinn Priester legit.
Yeah, certainly. But, I mean, it is a little bit surprising that the Blue Jays went with you Savage. And, I mean, the way that they've been utilizing Eric Lauer, Chris Bassett, and some of these guys, I think it's really costed them thus far in this series.
I'm shocked it hasn't cost them more, especially with the Yankee series. As a Yankee fan, I knew that was the inevitable they were going to lose because they were not legit. But I did think or have a feeling that showing your entire bullpen was going to come back and bite them. And all they do is continue to show their bullpen. And I think it's going to come up and catch them and bite them in the rear end. But I hope it's a better series. I hope this series goes longer than the Dodgers, because I know the Dodgers are the much better team in the postseason right now. But give me more. I don't want it to end, is what I'm trying to say, people. I don't want it to end. This postseason has been awesome. I think we're getting spoiled. And if you're not paying attention, you're missing out.
Yep, and I certainly do think out of the 2 games that we're going to be seeing for Friday, because I just revealed it, it's going to be Bryce Miller for the Mariners. And if it's not Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays, I would be very surprised. It has to be Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays in game number 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's a game that I could see the Blue Jays stealing, and I'm going to assume that the Brewers don't win on Thursday. We're doing this as we don't know the result, but that would put them in a do-or-die scenario with Jose Quintana, and I do not think that Jose Quintana, if the season's on the line, that he gets the job done.
He's supposed to play tonight. He
was supposed to, but they decided to, at the last second, to put in there Jacob Mizorowski as a bulk role instead. They did that at like 1 p.m.
Well, my money's on them crumbling regardless. Crap.
Like, I was thinking the same thing. I was going to take the Dodgers regardless of if it was Quintana or Mizrowski, but I think that just speaks to exactly why the Brewers have no chance in this series, because they don't even know who they want to pitch, because 100%. They have no good options.
Good conversation I had earlier today with Jake Hassan was with all the young, talented arms that we've seen in this postseason with Schlittler and Yasavage and Mizrowski now. I would want to lean more on Mizrowski out of the three, but I still think eventually it's going to catch up with him that he's a young pitcher, but maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's that legit that no one catches up to him. But facing the Dodgers in October is completely different than anything he's faced this entire season. His all-star season, mind you, regardless if he deserved it or not, still an all-star, still had an amazing season, and has been throwing nothing but gas and has been electrifying to watch this season. But I don't have confidence. I don't, but hopefully I'm wrong.
Yeah, I am someone that was born and raised.
I can't wait for people to listen to this tomorrow.
That'll be hilarious. It's like, and the Milwaukee Brewers won 17-3 in game number 3, and all of a sudden we have a series again. Yeah, that's not going to be happening, but one can dream as a Wisconsin sports fan who has been let down by so many teams like the Wisconsin Badgers losing the title to Duke.
Hey, you have Giannis. You have Giannis. You're fine.
That was their first title in over 50 years since a man by the name of Lou Alcindor brought one back to Wisconsin. So it had been a while for those guys. As Colby Marchio does great work over at Your Betting News. He's out there in the great state of Illinois, and well, they've had some droughts as well. He can feel my pain. He's joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And in terms of the way that you've been betting the postseason, what have been some of the angles that you've been taking a look at, and just some of the bets in general that you've been placing, whether that be from game to game or in the futures market?
Yeah, the first 5 team total overs have been my go-to bet every single game because personally, I think the books are not paying attention. Most of these games, despite I took the Dodgers at 2.5 at plus money, you're getting good price on a team that's locked and loaded every single game. But 1.5 for the people that have not ever bet first 5 team totals, it's typically 2.5, but now that it's the postseason, they've dropped it down to 1.5 because teams score less, apparently. And 1.5 to me is a gift. It doesn't matter what the price is as long as it's under $1.80. I am willing to pay. Doesn't matter the juice. I will pay it if it's at 1.5. I paid minus 170 for the Guardians to get over a half against Tarek Skubal in the first round. And I thought that was a steal. I mean, it was sweaty. It cashed, but there's no reason a team should be a half, especially how hot the Guardians were going into the postseason. I was like, I have to bet this. I don't care who is on the bump. You're giving me half run. I think we can make it happen. They cashed. That's cool. But if you like an offense to have success, theoretically, I like the Mariners to go over 1.5 at $1.60 against Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer has been horrific in his last 5 starts, his last 3 road starts. He's been horrific. I don't have the stats in front of me, but they're so bad that they're honestly laughable. And I'm willing to lose and pay that juice because I'm already on this offense thinking they're going to score a ton of runs. 1.5 sounds like the easiest breeze. Keep in mind, people, most teams average over 2 runs in the first 5 innings throughout the whole season. So that's why I always say it's a gift, and I'm happy to lose it because I know I'm on the right side regardless.
And especially just speaking to Max Scherzer in particular, how big was it that he was making his first starts of September 24th? That's nearly a 4-week layoff, and it's not like he was dealing with injury or anything like that. Who knows how he was preparing, and I recognize that this is a man that is pitching in a lot of big spots, but even a man that's pitching in a lot of big spots, something like that, and we're going to have that with Jose Quintana, who's only pitched once in like the last 4 weeks as well. That's something that I love to target in the postseason and fade those guys.
100%, and he's 41 years old. Now, I understand he's a psychopath, he's a lunatic, and he's one of the greatest pitchers we've ever seen of this generation.
2 different colors of eyes.
The eyes of baseball, aside from Andrew Vaughn. But it's got to catch up. So if he throws a gem, I can live with that. I can live with losing these bets because I know there's so much data backing what I'm betting and the numbers wrong. But baseball, when it comes to baseball betting, if you know a number's wrong, take it because the books are snoozing, especially when football's on.
I'm right there with you. And man, this is going to be such an interesting next slate of games that we're going to be having for Friday. The Brewers, like I said, most likely they're going to be facing elimination. For the Blue Jays, they're going to be looking to bring it back to Toronto. And Colby, it feels like you're in lockstep with myself, thinking that the Dodgers are inevitable, but you're also in lockstep with myself in terms of getting set for the college basketball season, doing a great job on the football side of things, and so much more. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
100%. As always, thank you for having me on, Greg. It's always a blast to talk about America's former pastime. I don't know what the pastime is right now, but I know it's not baseball. But I find all of my work over at bettingnews.com. All my write-ups are free. Every bet that I bet, for the most part, I give out for free on my socials at Colby M Bets. You can find all the craziness there. And thank you as always, Greg. It's always a blast talking about you. I don't know if we'll get in another one, but if this is the last one we get in before the World Series or baseball ends, it has been an amazing baseball season hanging out with you.
Oh, it most definitely has been. Colby is just a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of fun when it comes to the baseball side of things as well. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today, and be on the lookout for the DePaul tweets that he's going to be having in the next few weeks as well. That is going to be some good, clean family fun right there, and we're going to look to have some good, clean family fun up next as I give you guys picks and analysis for both games on betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by Colby Marchio. He does such great work over at Your Betting News. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. He did so once again today. So a big thanks to Colby for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis for the two playoff games that we've got for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going with Brewers versus Dodgers first, and then Blue Jays versus the Seattle Mariners. That'll keep things nice, clean, and easy. And how about if we start with 961, 962 on the card? Brewers are to be determined, most likely an opener for Ozzie Quintana, and Shohei Ohtani goes for the Dodgers. Dodgers between minus 185 to minus $2 favorites. Brewers between plus 152 to a plus 165 with a total of 8. Unders minus 115, overs minus 105, and to lay run half with the Dodgers, you're going to be getting that at a plus 115. I was willing to go up to a minus 111, so count me in on the Dodgers run line here. Ozzie Quintana is a guy that I really have no faith in whatsoever. They made a last-second switcheroonie to put in Jacob Mizorowski for game number 3, most likely because they knew that Mizorowski had much better chance to be able to keep the Brewers in this series. Unfortunately, that did not come to fruition for them, but for Mr. Ozzie Quintana, he's made one pitching appearance September 14th, overall during the regular season at 3.96 ERA, 6.1 strikeouts, 3.4 walks allowed per 9 innings, and now you've got a Dodgers lineup that is averaging nearly 5.5 runs per game at home this season. That is number 1 in all of baseball, and for the Brewers, they did have to expend quite a few bullpen arms in that game yesterday as well. You had Abner Uribe come in for 17 pitches, Jared Koenig for 24, so that's a little bit of an issue. You still have Grant Anderson. He's been able to supply you with a sub-3 ERA. Conceivably, Uribe could be able to come back for this game as well, but for the Brewers, I just really feel like they're up against it, against a Dodgers lineup that hasn't even necessarily been in like full firepower mode this series, but still Teoscar Hernandez, 4 home runs here in the postseason. Mookie Betts has been able to give you a 380 on base during the postseason. Will Smith is starting to get jiggy with it once again. Shohei Ohtani has actually struggled at the plate, but we'll get to his pitching in a second. He's been very rock solid there, hitting just a $158 here in the postseason, but you've got Max Muncy, who's been able to supply a 400 on base here in the postseason. Kike Hernandez, he always does horribly in the regular season and finds it in the postseason. He's had that happen once again, and for Shohei Ohtani, when he has been on the mound, he has been very rock solid. If you take a look at the regular season and the postseason ERA, that's at a 3.06, but he, between the regular season and the playoffs, 12.1 strikeouts, 1.7 walks per 9 innings for a fielding independent that hovers right around 2. And for the LA Dodgers, I've talked about it on the podcast a lot. No longer do you have the likes of Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates coming out of the bullpen. Now, you still have the likes of Alex Vesia, Jack Dreyer. Those two guys have been able to give you sub 350 ERA, but now you've got Emmett Sheehan. Recognizes Clayton Kershaw has not been great in the postseason, but you've got Clayton Kershaw. Rookie Sasaki has been very good out of the bullpen. They do have to face off against a Brewers team that's been averaging right around 5 runs per game on the road this season. That is number 1 in the National League, and we've got plenty of guys that they move the line and get on base. They're actually in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Christian Yelich, 29 home runs this season, and then Jackson Trio between the regular season and the postseason, 23. Lone 2 guys on the roster with 20-plus bombs, but you take a look at Yelich in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only, Andrew Vaughn, Caleb Durbin, Sal Frelick, William Contreras, Bryce Harang, a whole bunch of guys give you at least a 335 on base. So I do think that they get to Ohtani a little bit, but I just have no faith whatsoever here in Jose Quintana and the bullpen of the Brewers. I set my total at an 8.2, like the over and the Dodgers on the run line, and then this game is off the board as I record this. I have to have this up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, and you never get openers until the previous game is done, 963, 964, but we do know that it's going to be Kevin Gausman going for the Road Blue Jays and Bryce Miller going for Seattle, and here's my handicap for it. I set the Blue Jays as a favorite. I'm willing to lay up to a minus 111 on that Blue Jays money line. Would need at least a plus 113 to take a shot on the Mariners and set a total of 7.4. 7 or less, I'm in on the over, 7.5 or higher. The under, I have been very impressed by Kevin Gausman and this recent run that he's had. You look at what he did during the regular season, that ERA was right around about a 3.58. It's lowered here a little bit in the postseason to a 3.52 overall between the regular season and the postseason, but 4 of his last 19 starts, 2 earned runs or fewer allowed. He's getting 8.7 strikeouts at 2.3 walks per 9 innings, and he's supported by a lineup that ever since the All-Star break is averaging 5.6 runs per game. That leads all of baseball, and we saw the Blue Jays just absolutely terrorize the Mariners once again yesterday. Flagger Jr. only had 23 home runs during the regular season. He's already got 5 here in the postseason. Andres Gimenez has now went deep twice here in the postseason. Dalton Varsho wasn't able to get on base, but was hitting for a lot of power during the regular season. He's hitting over at 275 here in the postseason. George Springer, 30-plus home runs during the regular season and the postseason. They're without Anthony Santander, but they've been without him for pretty much the entirety of the season. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk has been a little bit cold here in the postseason, but Ernie Clement is hitting above a 450 right now in the postseason. So, yeah, this team is in really good form. And for the Seattle Mariners, they're more than just an all-or-nothing team. A lot of people think of them as being a boom-or-bust team because you've got the likes of Eugenio Suarez, Cal Raleigh with 50-plus home runs, and with Raleigh between the regular season and the postseason, I believe he's up to 63 bombs, but you do have plenty of guys that are able to get on base. J.P. Crawford during the regular season, about a 350 on base, but he and Dom Canzone, who have been 2 of the main constants in terms of moving the line, you can even throw in there Randy Arozarena, all a 285 or lower on base percentage here in the postseason. Josh Naylor was able to go deep yesterday, and he's been hitting a 300 for the team. Julio Rodriguez has been able to give you a few home runs here in the postseason, so Seattle does have a relatively rock-solid lineup there, and for Bryce Miller, really nice start in game number 1, gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings, but if you look at things between the regular season and the postseason, 5.36 ERA with 1.6 home runs, 3.3 walks allowed per 9 innings, albeit he was dealing with a lot of injuries, and now he looks to be the most healthy that he's been all season long. And for Miller, all throughout his career, you just take a look at the home and road splits, and they're very demonstrative. This is not just this year, but this is throughout the entirety of his career. 4.77 ERA on the road. On the road, he's giving up in that neighborhood of about 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. At home for his career, closer to about 1.1 to 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, 334 ERA. That's mainly because Seattle's one of the more pitcher-friendly ballparks that you're going to find in all baseball, actually perhaps a top 2 ballpark in terms of pitcher friendliness. And for Seattle, this is a rock-solid bullpen that they didn't utilize a high-leverage guys yesterday, quite frankly, because they were getting crushed. They did a little bit early on when they had Matt Brash, Gabe Spire, and company come in, but you're going to be able to have Andres Munoz fully rested. Matt Brash only threw 10 pitches. You had Edward Pizarro come into the game as well. All these guys, a sub-325 ERA during the regular season, and he should be all good to go in this game. And then on the flip side for the Toronto Blue Jays, they were able to rest their main bullpen guys as well. So this means that the likes of Braden Fisher, Brandon Little, Uriel Rodriguez, who had a sub-335 ERA during the regular season, they're going to be good to go. They used Louis Varland for only 6 pitches, Mason Flaherty for only 7 pitches. So this is a bullpen that's actually pretty stacked, with Max Scherzer giving them a good start yesterday. So I do think that that is going to lead to a little bit more of a lower scoring game than we saw in the first 2 games here in Seattle. So I went with a total of 7 or less to the over, 7.5 prior to the under. I set my total at 7.4, and with the Blue Jays, going to be willing to go up to a minus 111 on that money line. Would need at least plus 113 to be able to take a shot on the Seattle Mariners, and that wraps things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to Colby Marchio of Your Betting News for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I am with you guys every single day that we've got playoff baseball. Might take a day or two off when we've got that long lull between the championship series wrapping up and the World Series, but that said, I'll be with you guys every day on this podcast, which means I'm going to be back with you guys once again tomorrow. Thank you.